Hi again, YouTube. I have some time to do a video. Got some of my kitchen cleaned up, garbage out, exercises done, and yeah, Doug went to get a sand point for that well, so, um, and water, more, buying water till we have running water, so, uh, I was able to wash up this morning and stuff, and, you know, and will like later too, but not like I want to. And I've been in the position where I had to even like pack water and boil it up a mountain and boil it to like keep my kids clean, do my dishes, all that type of thing. I've done that a lot in my life, or even doing laundry by hand. And um a person doesn't really realize the creature comforts in our lives unless you haven't had them, and then a person's more apt to take those type of things for granted. But especially really, and I'll just say it like it is, if you have never pounded a well for your own water, anytime you go and you take a drink of water, you just take that for granted, you know, of who actually had to put the work into that water to bring it to the surface for your enjoyment, because not every there are streams and fresh springs of water that come onto the surface naturally, but those are really hard to find in the world we live today, at least around civilization, that type of thing. All I'm saying is I don't take those type of things for granted. I don't take a washing machine, a dryer, a stove when you've had to cook out on a fire, or even a roof over my head. I don't take any of these for for granted like a lot of people actually really haven't had many hardships. I mean, we all have hardships like in our marriages or losses of loved ones or different things in life. But something I wanted to touch on too was like parents with a narcissistic mindset that would use their parenthood against their child, like I gave birth to you, or I brought you into our family, therefore you owe me your existence for the rest of your life. Well, first off, none of them children have ever been, they're not mine, they belong to God. I was doing the best I could with the children He gave me in my life. No parents own you or anybody else, and we raise our children. We hope to raise our children to make that healthy separation. As a matter of fact, your little toddler, a toddler should be trying to make that separation. It causes anger in a little kid, but it's a natural thing for them to try and make a separation from them and their parents. And then when you go into adolescence, them poor little creatures, they're all over the map trying to be different than their parents were. You know, it's a natural thing in all human beings. And for a parent to play the poor me card on any of their children, and especially like in the scriptures where it specifically states, like if you go into marriage, you leave your mother and father behind. Your spouse is now your other half, and your parents do not figure into that picture. Now if you're unmarried, and I suppose if you're a man, and I'm sure, like, if you have a mom, you're always gonna be worried about her in to up to a point, and especially if you aren't married, then she could play the poor me card on you and try and make you feel like you are indebted to her for the rest of your life, that's total fucking bullshit right there. It is. Um, I'm saying this because I was willing to walk away from my inheritance because I helped somebody recover from cancer, and the minute she was healthy, she turned on me like a viper, you know? After that, it was like, "Well, so you're healthy. I'm glad your other child was not there for you when you needed him and you would have died. So y'all have a nice life without me." That's the way it made me feel. But so I really have a really deep understanding of what it's like to raise sons and say, and even they are like, they're appalled with me because I don't have that 8 burn stringy connection with them like I'm supposed to um be needy of my children into my older age. It's like, no, I raised you to be men. Go be men then. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And mom, is she going to be okay? Well, yeah, I will. If somebody's here when I'm very elderly and they can help me out, well, I'm fine. If not, I have every confidence that I'm going to be okay and God will take care of me. And I always have felt like that. But my kids feel annihilated by me just for my attitude like that. They can't stand it. I'm supposed to be needy of them because they're needy of me, you know. Or actually, they're players and users, and I'm not going to let them use me, but, a little different scenario than some people, but, you know. And some families are closer than others. I never really had that opportunity, and I wish I had, um, up to a point. But it's just like with my grandchildren, even if they lived very close, I would not need them or want them in my life every single day. And I think they could say the same thing. It's the same with my daughter-in-law. I know she loves me, but she doesn't want me involved in her life every second of her flippin' day, and I shouldn't be, you know? There's a separation when people grow up and go out on their own, you know. That's the way that is. So don't feel bad. Don't let these people guilt trip you. I'm talking to one person in particular, but don't let them guilt trip you on this shit. That's total bullshit, you know. I have more to say on that just a minute. I really do. It's the same with me. You have a mother, what they call a dead mother, that'll just stand there and watch her children get beat up and swore at and everything else that's vile on this planet. Um, and then expect you to be there for them in their old age. I mean, yeah, up to a point. Seriously, up to a point. When they take advantage of that and just expect you to keep giving where they didn't give what you needed, you have to really examine that and don't feel bad. You know, you do have to make a separation of that, and it is toxic. You know, like I said, our children were giving to us gifts from God to raise for Him, to be independent adults, not to raise needy children for needy parents. That's just not, it's not cool, you know. And to use Bible verses, people using Bible verses like There's nowhere in the scriptures where it says, "Thou shalt be there for your parents till their very last breath." There's no place in the scriptures that says anything like that. As a matter of fact, it says just the opposite. When you become an adult, you go out and parents are supposed to raise their children to be self-sufficient, not dependent on them. And I know, like in some cultures, they all live together and they're closer in a lot of ways, and their bloodline may be closer in a lot of ways than some of us. I'm proud to be a total mutt. I have all kinds of bloodlines, and I'll say it once again, that just tells me that my lineage didn't sleep with their relatives. And I'm sure there was a reason for it, because there is something in me like that um and with the incest on this planet, I'm thoroughly repulsed. So there, I think that's been passed on for generations in my family. I'm just saying. Not that there isn't millions of people in any given country that you're going to be sleeping with your same blood, because there could be, like, in Germany, there could be somebody from Istanbul or whatever. So it's not just if you're German, you're of the German heritage or anything, because you never know, you know. And according to people's family lineage, you can tell who they were with or who they weren't, and your heritage and whatever. So, yeah. But like I say, don't let these people guilt trip you with their little, you know. It's one thing to care about your parents and make sure or hope that they're going to be okay in the future, but if they weren't there for you like that when you were little, I mean, you can still have compassion and you can still care, but I I broke it off completely, or I just limited it to more or less phone calls. Until my dad died, I would talk to him on the phone occasionally. But what was orchestrated in my life against the Christ spirit that works inside of people was orchestrated by um the dark forces of evil that I was surrounded by in the satanic cult that tried to persuade my mind to be something that it wasn't. And that's the same type of, like, brainwashing that they'll try and guilt trip you. There's people out here right now trying to guilt trip other people into like, you have to believe that their sickness is passable or you're not a good person. No, your sickness is sick, and I'm going to expose that sickness, and it's not passable. I'm not passing it on to the next generation. And whether or not you're married or have children, if you just stand still right there and put your foot down and say, "This ends here. This is nonsense. I still love you people, but I don't like you." And that's, where you make the distinction. And like I say, to cut people completely off might not be where your heart is at or what's meant for you, but if it's causing you emotional and physical damage, then you really have to examine, why are these people still denying not only what they did do, but trying to guilt trip you for making a healthier life and decisions in your life. And that's where I started asking myself, well, like, you didn't care about me, and now what? You expect me to think you're going to care about my children? No. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do everything I can to try and keep you away from my kids, is what that made me feel like. You know, it didn't make me more dependent on them. it made me more disgusted. The harder they tried to keep me refrained from what I needed to do in my life, the harder I fought against it, you know? Oh, yeah, don't let them guilt trip you. I could pull up, there's all kinds of verses, but the one main thing with that is leading a child wrong. And in some extremes, like with a friend of mine, they did lead you wrong. And it's better for them to have a millstone tied around their neck and thrown into the sea than it is for them to have to face what's going to happen to them when they meet their maker, and that's a fact. So just know that God loves you and He is your vengeance, and they are not going to get away with it. There is a retribution. If they want to call it punishment, whatever. You should be charged with your crimes and pay for your crimes. That's what normal people do on this planet. We usually examine ourselves and say, wow, that was kind of crappy of me. I have to rearrange my thinking here so I can be a healthier individual for other people. And that's what normal people do. We examine ourselves and we grow. We don't need anybody to tell us how to grow. On the other hand, they'll take they're self-serving and intentionally ignorant. So, and that's what I was talking about earlier, how people are trying to persuade me that I don't see a psychosis in somebody when they're a psychopath, and that I'm going to harbor some of the blame for their actions in the world. I'm not doing that. I will not do that. What people do is on them, and I'm not going to take responsibility for what they do, you know. Now, Christ died for everybody's sins, but if you have sins against a child, that's really not too much included in that. You're gonna pay for that. One way or another, these people will pay for it. So, but when the so-called mind experts on this planet, psychologists, are working in tandem, hand in hand, to try and silence somebody with a pretty large brain and a great big heart and try and make it seem like I did something by voicing my opinion. No, I'm not just calling somebody out. I'm putting an end to it. I'm not just out here to demean, or that's not even how my heart operates. You can't even go there with me. Even Doug himself, I can tell you that he's got psychopathic thoughts and would be worse if there were no laws on this planet. And he wouldn't necessarily, he'd laugh, but he wouldn't disagree with me. Well, he might say I am not, but he wouldn't enforce that fact because he knows it's true. And I know it's true, you know? So I'm not saying he's a murderer, but what is a person capable of is another thing, you know, and why. And that's a whole nother thing that people probably don't have a great understanding of. A few of you do, you know. I've explained it before, but today is not the day. But it isn't out of trying to demean anybody. It's out of pointing out the facts, lifting the veil, and not letting this nonsense continue on this planet. No, we don't pacify psychopaths, you know. Or like I say, we don't play patty cake with demons, you know? We might play patty cake here. That's how I'll play patty cake with their ass, you know? So I just want to make that really clear. No, I don't care if it, you know, this is what Doug said this morning, something to this effect. How did he put that? It doesn't matter how many degrees you have if you failed life, if you failed the test of life itself. How's that? I'll make that the title of my video or something to that effect. So even though it may seem to other people like I am just demeaning another human being just to have something to say, no, I'm talking to the other people that are living with the dark force in their life and they know full well what's going on. And so does Doug. So people that you, in other words, if you have a satanic mindset, even Satan thinks you're stupid. What do you think about that? You better think about that. I think it's freaking hilarious if you ask me. And at the end of all this, I know I'm going to be laughing because I've had visions of that. So my heart's already laughing. Some days it's kind of sad. But if you think that you're pulling anything over on me or the world by like changing a description of what would be a mental health issue to suit yourself or to make money off that situation, it isn't going to benefit you. And you will be stopped and you will end up looking like a fool. And I'm talking to a couple women that are playing games. Don't play games. It doesn't look nice. Even a guy that was involved, he got a psychiatrist with a couple of psychologists or a life coach and a psychologist. Even the look on his face was like looking at y'all like you're stupid because you are, and he knows it. But I just want to make it very clear that I know that too. And you aren't going to persuade me or sway me in any other direction than what my heart says is right or wrong. So you can try and paint me as narcissistic or psychotic. Oh, I'll get psychotic. Hell yeah, it's one of my funnest things to do if I get all pissed off and I'm ranting and raving. And I'm just playing, unless you're in my face and you're actually trying to hurt me, then my psychosis won't be a game. So just keep that in mind. I'm very even tempered. I am not insane, but self preservation isn't insanity. And I'm not going to let anybody paint a picture of what is a psychosis on me when it's not there. So, and I've been around the best of the best when it comes to like mind control or anybody thinking that they have a notch up the ladder in the psychosis department, like, oh, we're so smart. Well, no, you're not. But that's cool. You can think you are, you know. There's some that are very intelligent, highly intelligent, and I appreciate that. I love listening to great minds. It's my favorite thing to do. Talk to intelligent people. I could do it forever, you know. But if you're sneaky, I got you caught before you even try to sneak anything on me. So I already know before you even try it. That's kind of having the upper hand anyway, isn't it? No matter what you try, and I already know what you're gonna try. Yeah, that's why I'm able to get out here and keep talking about it when people try and stop me, because it's not going to work. So you can't change behavioral. Um, well, you can change it in the book. You can change what a psychotic behavior is to suit yourself. It's like schizophrenia and not believing in the spiritual warfare that's going on. And you'd rather call somebody, you'd rather call them schizoid or tell them they have a psychosis when it's actually spiritual. Or you'd rather feel as though your ego within yourself is talking to yourself and not that there's any kind of lord over you and it's all you, it's just you. In fact, you thought me up. You thought I was so cool. You made me, you know, and that's how you think about yourself. Well, you're about ready to be humbled, and then you'll find out that you actually weren't God, you know. When you find that out, that's the biggest key for everybody when you're humbled, you know. And we all are when it comes to God, you know. I might have made my kids, even designed them, what their looks or actions or different things for different reasons might be. But the ultimate grand design was God given through me, you know. Now, if a mother goes into making love to her husband or her significant other or whatever, and they actually are not thinking on the terms of building a tiny human being with God's spirit in them, well, then you're leaving it up to chance how that child's actually going to turn out. I mean, it's all in God's hands anyway, but having an understanding of what your forefathers or their forefathers, because we feel it through our blood when we're pregnant with these little people, and some moms are not in tune with that part of it all. So people are going to suffer because of it, because they really were just fornicating, not making love and not making children with God in mind. Then you're going to have problems. I mean, I got problems too, but my problems stem from me being the warrior I am and the dark force trying to annihilate my children and I. Even my grandchildren are aware of all this because they recognize it. They're going to be better off for that recognition in their older years. My sons were not. They were taken away from me at a crucial time where they would have been okay, and that dark force swooped in to annihilate them. But I believe that what I instilled in them as little people will surface and it won't fail them and it will keep them alive. And that's my belief. I think they're going to be okay. I have every faith one way or another my son's souls will be okay. You know, there's times I did not feel that way, but I do, you know. Two, if you had what they call like a dead parent or a dead mother that didn't care about you and just brain dead, you know, is one way to, or empty, just an empty vessel. Well, God was with you the whole time. all those good things that turned out, or when it seemed like something may not turn out. Like they say, like if you meet a friend and you really want that person as a friend or a loved one or whatever, or like even with my adopted parents or my birth mother, whatever, and it doesn't work out, well, this is God's way of protecting me from people that just continuously hurt my feelings anyway. And I'm not overly sensitive. I'm the right amount of sensitive. It's just that they're overly ignorant and selfish. So God was watching over you like that anyway, even when they weren't. So, and I believe that too. I believe He takes people out of our lives to protect us. And we might not even realize it at the time what's going on or why. But I always try and ask Him, for good or bad, guide me here with this person or that person. And um, should I just like let it go or keep trying or that type of thing? And I believe that I usually do the right thing, what He tells me to do. Sometimes it's a little harder than other times, but normally. Mm. So yeah, do not let even a parent or a sibling or even a friend, whoever, don't, or these channels out here, whatever, whoever, don't let anybody guilt trip you in your life. If you know you're a good person and you're doing the right things in life, don't listen to anybody but your own instincts inside yourself, you know? And this is where when people like that will use scriptures against people, like there just is no scripture in there. Thou shalt cling to your mother's apron strings until she's elderly. There's just nothing in the scriptures like that. Or father, whoever. No, in fact, it's absolutely different than that altogether. And it does start out like, number one, your children don't even belong to you to begin with. You're doing a service for God. And it's the parents that don't feel like that that have the biggest troubles in life anyway, or the kids that feel that way, the kids that feel entitled in their parents' life. And that's ridiculous also. There's nothing wrong with a give and take situation and being close. But sometimes being close, it causes you more harm than it does good. And it is really hard to walk away from people that we want to love, but they're not so lovable. You know, it is hard. And there's days I could just cry about it. But I just have to remember what it feels like to listen to like a demeaning or a negative voice. And this isn't somebody trying to guide me with love or concern or anything like this. It's like, this is how I feel and this is how you should feel type of attitude with people. It's like, no, uh-uh. So, but I do know it's very painful. Like I say, not really having real parents and then meeting one of them and talking to the other one, my birth parents, when I got older, taught me a huge lesson that I'm entirely different than all these people and they are more worldly and they're willing to They're the type of people that are willing to interact in situations that I find disgusting, and I just can't be around it. I just cannot. Um, I can't even lower myself to want to be around that. I can't. It'd be like begging for love where I'm not loved. You know, no, I can't do it. I won't do it. I won't pretend somebody loves me when they don't. Just forget it. You know. Will I still love them? Of course. They're lovable parts, but then I have to remind myself of the parts that aren't lovable, that inflict the most damage, and guard myself from that. So, yeah, I'll chat with you a little longer here. I don't know. I just, I don't know. I've seen parents. I mean, they were gonna buy me an island, fix this place, fix that place, whatever, anything to keep me in their life, keep me close. I don't know if it was out of control of, well, I know they were trying to stop me from making people understand the spiritual war that is going on. I shouldn't say they, I should say my adopted mother played a great big role and still does on stopping the Christ spirit from entering everybody on this planet. The Eastern Star and most of the Masons were concerned with ruining my life, so I would just shut the hell up and go away. And if they could have me in close proximity, they would have more control. I know, like maybe I still am right, but I was hypnotized. They tried light therapy. I mean, the shit these Masons, the Masonic orders, because there's so many affiliates that would try and play their games with me that God kept me safe from. If I could name all the times and the shit that I went through, um, you would be astounded. You probably wouldn't even believe it. To raise me to be more of a Manchurian candidate than, MK Ultra mind control. And God kept me safe from all that. Maybe, and I had thought often, like my dyslexia and my different way of thinking was probably put in me by God from the very beginning. So they really couldn't quite get a handle on my thoughts because they're, I think, a little differently right out of the gate from a lot of other people. And I believe that was one of his ways of keeping me safe from the people that were thinking of like minds, more in the worldly fashion. I believe that too. So if you have like a disability like that, and I know another minister of sorts that is dyslexic, and I think it is a safety mechanism given from God because you hear what other people say, the same, but the thought process of coming to maybe even the same conclusion, but the thought process, the initial when somebody says something to you, we look at it, I think, a little deeper because we've learned how to go deeper in things that we see or read or hear as to make no mistakes with that. And then when we grow out of our disability or learn learning mechanisms so we can teach ourselves, we have kind of like an extra level on examining it, like we investigate things just a little deeper than the next person because of that disability to make sure it's like double checking a math equation, like when you come up with the total of it and then you just want to double check it. Or like you're writing an article and you're going to proofread it before you put it out there. Well, I think with the disability like that, you have an instinct to like automatically almost do another level of proofreading or proof listening on people when they're talking, you know? So, and I do. I go really deep and analyze whenever anybody's trying to teach me something. You're probably not going to teach me anything I don't already know. I don't know everything, no, but you would find it very hard to tell me something I don't know. I'm just saying that much is true. And that's not being arrogant at all. Try it. Try and tell me something. If I don't know it, I'll tell you. I mean, if it's something in the news that just happened today, well, quite possibly I'm not going to know it, you know? Pick a topic. You'd find it very hard to tell me something I don't know. And I think that that has a lot to do with spending so much time alone and reading. When I was a kid, that's all I did was read. We in the era of libraries, encyclopedias, and atlases, and that was like our whole world. If you were a reader when you were a kid, when I was a kid, um, the information that we learned, it wasn't human driven. We were left to our own devices. So whatever our interests were is where I feel God guided my steps and whatever I learned, and a lot of it was theology and literary languages, that type of thing. So, yeah, anyway. And once you overcome a disability and find mechanisms to make your world go around and fit into society somehow, you almost have an extra level of armor that other people don't have. Well, not it's not even a sorta, that's it's a fact. Gives you another level of understanding on especially language. What if you're dyslexic and you see things backwards? Maybe there's something in your DNA that you're actually reading, like Sanskrit or some Assyrian language that starts from right to left instead of left to right. Maybe this is something I'm in. You know what? What it might be very close to the truth. Maybe this is something that's actually embedded in us from our forefathers. That it isn't dyslexia at all, but like a genetic code within us that it can give us the ability to be able to read that other language that doesn't start from left to right, you know? Because a lot of dyslexia, you'll start from right to left and then you go kind of in the middle of the thing and you can see a word. And actually with the English language, it's word recognition is how people learn. And that's why Hooked on Phonics was so popular, to be able to sing words gives you a double layer of a learning ability to learn those words. Well, that's why I'm saying the same with dyslexia. Once you learn how to overcome that disability, you have like a dual learning ability that other people don't have. It's a fact. So, is it a disability or an advantage? I'd say it's probably an advantage. I struggled when I was little, but I only struggle now if I'm tired or something, so, you know. I couldn't see any northern lights when I got up uh about 5:30 or so. And then the sun started coming up about a quarter to 7, somewhere around in there. Like I said, I seen a little bit of colors in the sky. Maybe tonight there might be some. That'd be cool. I don't know that I'll get my camera out. Maybe someday I'll be able to capture them, but one year it was so incredible. Um, my oldest son, Luke, was here, and Luke and Doug and I were out in the backyard, and the northern lights were there. It's like they were swirling and dancing around us with pinks and blues and greens and yellow, and it was so beautiful. It's like you were able to dance with the northern lights. I could hardly even describe it. It was so beautiful. And I've seen them before, and I've been like where the sky has been like all green or all kind of purple. That happens a lot here. We have a lot of purple skies. But that night in particular was probably about, oh, maybe about 20 years ago. It was so beautiful. I'll never forget it. I had a hard time even wanting to go in the house, even though I was tired and it was getting laid out, but it was beautiful, you know. It's like my stepdaughter and I were sitting on the back porch having a cigarette. Um, her kids were little, and when mine were, I would go and smoke away from them most of the time. And so anyway, we're out on the porch having a cigarette, and uh, would be north of us, we seen UFOs. There was like, maybe a half a dozen of these orbs, these lights, and they were just like, we were trying to get Doug to come out and see them with us, and they were just like jetting. They'd shoot up and then back into formation. I don't see anything other than I believe Project Bluebeam and light technology, and I have seen some things like cities in the sky and whatever, and different things that I see more of a Project Bluebeam projection type of things to make me believe that something is that is not. And I read about Project Bluebeam in 1972 and some white papers that the Jesuits showed me, along with schematics of like how the lenses were used and the different things. And I mean, some really deep research that I had the opportunity, like even scriptural and the different religions that were going to be used, and how part truths were in every religion mixed in with the lies, and nothing was the absolute truth. Um, and who was doing what and why and these type of things, and the book of gematria that was handwritten, and those families and names that are in there, and why and who they are. And it's not like the Rockefellers or whoever and these type of people. they're just puppets for show out in the front. The people that actually have control, you don't even know their names, or if you do, you don't recognize it, you know. But I'm just telling you the truth of everything, and that's all I can do. Huh. But I just wanted to make it very, very clear. Don't let people guilt trip you on anything, and use your own discretion. Don't feel bad. I know it hurts. You're going to feel bad anyway, but just don't be used in that way, because if they were good people, you wouldn't have suffered the way you suffered when you were young. And if they haven't changed by now, they're just not going to. And they already have picked a side of who they serve. And if it isn't the good force, well, then it's the other one. There's no in between on all this. It's a spiritual war, you know. So, okay, everybody, I'm going to get this uploaded. I appreciate you joining me. Um, have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. Love y'all.